Hello, I Divya Momaya, founder of Mentor My Board. Welcome you all to this exclusive series by Free Press Journal in association with Mentor My Board on Grow with Governance. Focus of this series is on the role of independent directors in business growth and sustainability in India. Mentor My Board is a platform to groom, nurture, handhold promoters, independent directors, women directors, and board aspirants with a vision to create a community of 1 lakh directors and has been providing virtual platform to the directors, mentors, and corporates. Free Press Journal is more than 9 decades old newspaper. Today, Free Press Journal has gone beyond just being a print medium. It has a strong digital presence with a large online subscribers for e-paper. Free Press Journal has been quite active in the webinar space since lockdown, and even before lockdown, Free Press Journal was actively involved into the policy level discussions. And this present initiative organized today is a part of Free Press Journal's ongoing strategy to create awareness on various policy level topics. And in this series, today we have Mr. Milind Sarvate. And now let me take the opportunity to introduce Milind with all of us. Mr. Milind Sarvate is the founder and CEO of Increte Value Advisors LLP. And he has been eminent advisor, independent director, and social contributor. He provides advice and mentorship in business and social value creation, governance, and capability building, leveraging his 38 years of vast experience in the long stints as CFO, CHRO in Marico and Godrej. Milind has been his independent directorships have been including in 4 listed companies, which includes Mahindra Finance, Metropolis Healthcare, Sequent Scientific, and Matrimony.com. 5 unlisted companies: Hexaware, FSN E-commerce, which is Nika, Omni Active Healthcare, Eternis Fine Chemical, and Wheels EMI. He has been on listed company boards since 2005. Milind invests in promising businesses and social enterprises. He has recently set up a not-for-profit company, Increte Foundation, and is on the advisory board of Educo, a school support NGO. Now, with his such a vast experience, we are sure his valuable contributions to this series of Grow with Governance will surely help all of us. So, with this, I hand over to Jessilia and Neha. So, Jessilia is principal correspondent with Free Press Journal, and Neha Shah is the founder director with Mentor My Board. So, over to you, both of you. Thank you. And welcome, Milind, to this series.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on this forum. So, Jessilia, you will be happy to know that I was a very avid Free Press Journal reader during my childhood. In fact, one of my early experience with reading in English began with FPJ, especially the sports pages and so on. So you can look at me as one of the uh, in your 9 decades of being there for some time. At least I was a co-passenger in that journey. So thanks for this
We hope.
opportunity, and thanks also to Divya and Neha for giving me this opportunity of interacting with Mentor My Board. So it's a pleasure because it's always good to invest in the profession. So we are trying to build a profession of independent directorships, and I can contribute to that. So thanks to both of you for inviting me.
Thank you for letting us know that you have been an avid reader of Free Press. Hope you continue to be a reader going forward as well. And just to start with the interaction, so the theme is grow with governance. So we want to understand what has your journey been as a board of director, and what kind of challenges have you seen lately in this profession that you are in?
Okay, so let me begin how I came into the profession, so to say, of independent directorship. As mentioned by Divya in my when she introduced me, I first became an independent director in 2005. At that time, I was holding an executive role in Marico. I was the CFO of Marico at that time, and it was a matter of chance, so to say, that I was invited to be on the board and be the audit committee chairman of a listed company. That company was Geometric Software Solutions Limited. It was an IT company. And as Mr. Harsh Mariwala is a very progressive leader, he was the chairman of the Marico board, and he allowed me to take up this role of a directorship with an outside company. It was because of that I could start this journey. Uh, his logic was simple that if Milind goes and sits on a board of another company, he will learn something different, and then he will bring that learning to the parent company, which was Marico at that time. So I think this logic worked, and that directorship gave me a lot of learnings in the initial phases, and I was able to plow that back into my executive role. In fact, this journey suggests to me that the best way of being an independent director is when you're already is not necessarily after you retire from your other occupations. You can do a parallel role, just as I started in 2005. The advantage of this early start was that I already have now 15, 16 years of experience as an independent director, which is something which people, if they start after retirement, it takes quite a bit of an aging for that individual. So the journey began in 2005, as I mentioned. Typically, once you get one directorship, other directorships follow because you enter the circuit, so to say. You are then visible. People know about how exactly you are working, and after about 5 6 years, I got into my second board membership, which was with International Paper, which was a US based MNC which came to India after an acquisition, and they were constituting the board. And I had the privilege of being the chairman of the audit committee of that company also, because I was already the chairman of the audit committee in Geometric. I had the prior experience. So one experience begets another experience. Here the experience was a little different because the board of International Paper comprised many luminaries, and I had the privilege and the challenge of leading an audit committee which already had, say, somebody like Mr. M.K. Sharma, who is a great legal luminary, and Mrs. Ranjana Kumar, who was the Vigilance Commission, India Vigilance Commissioner, etc. So it was a great experience in terms of building my confidence, in terms of making me aware of how to handle a committee which comprises of many seniors. So that was my second board membership. After that, in 2014, I branched out and I decided that I will have my own career as an entrepreneur, as an individual who is advising, consulting, providing board membership roles, etc. And in that process, I acquired many more directorships. I also gave up some directorships in the past 6 7 years, and now I have this portfolio of four listed and five unlisted companies in my board portfolio. As I mentioned, as Divya mentioned earlier, there is also an advisor angle to me. There is a mentor angle. There is a consultant angle. But I would say my primary role is that of an independent director, and I devote a lot of time to the independent board memberships. So this is where I am. There are a few learnings which I would say I would list out for aspiring independent directors through my journey, but I will take it up later during our chat. You also asked Jessilia about the challenges that one faces today as compared to at the journey. I think the profession of independent directorship has evolved, and it has evolved towards becoming a more challenging profession because the regulatory outreach to this profession has only gone up. It has, I think, the regulators have placed more and more demands on independent directors. The role of the independent directors, as expected by companies, has also gone up for both business reasons and regulatory reasons. The third point I would say is that business challenges have mounted. Especially, we have had many, uh, what should I say, many discontinuous developments in the Indian economy over the past few years, starting with demonetization and then the GST introduction, as well as some of the other regulatory changes. And last 2 years, 2020 and 21, have been dominated by COVID. So I feel the role of the board itself has come into great limelight, and independent directors have, in the process, uh, been mm, required to take up many more responsibilities and challenges than before. So I would say that the journey has been towards a very eventful board membership role over the past 15, 16 years that I have been on board. Thanks.
So, in terms
Wow,
of
great to know. Jessilia, can I go further with
yeah,
the next
sure.
question?
Yes.
So, Milanji, as Divya introduced you, so we've heard that from IT to finance to healthcare to FMCG, you've been a part of varied industries. So, when you look back, can you share some of the challenges and learnings that you gathered from this variety of industries?
Okay, so first of all, the role of the board, there is a lot of commonality across industries. Industry specific implications for the role come up because of two major factors. One factor is that the nature of business could differ from industry to industry. Some industries are capital intensive, some industries are intensive, and some industries depend upon an economic discontinuity, so to say. So, based on what specifically drives that industry, the board has to develop some kind of an expertise in that area. For example, in financial services, like I'm on the board of two NBFCs, one is Mahindra Finance and the other
Hmm.
is VMI, and they are at two ends of the spectrum. Mahindra Finance is one of the largest NBFCs in the country.
Right.
It is an old company, so to say, and it carries the all
The
the
trust.
merit and the trust of the Mahindra Group. On the other
Yes.
side, I am on the board of Wheels EMI, which is a small company with a book of only about 500 crores. Mahindra Finance is more than 50, 60,000 crores. So there are two extreme ends of the spectrum, but the regulations governing them are similar. In fact, Wheels AMI has recently become a company which is significant. As a result of that, the regulations are converging for both the companies. So NBFCs are governed by regulations. So the directors, especially if you are chairing the audit committee, you need to understand what exactly are those regulations. So one of the challenges as well as opportunities of learning is the special regulations, the special set of circumstances applicable to the company. For example, if you are on an IT board, IT companies are necessarily global entities, and therefore you need to understand how do they operate in the rest of the world. What are the challenges of each geography where they operate? If you are on the board of a healthcare company like Metropolis, then the consumer gets a lot of center stage, and you need to make sure that the board oversees the consumer interface as much as possible. So one is the special nature of the industry. The second point I would say is that the stage of each company, it also drives the role of the board. And some of my learnings have been in being with startups like Wheels EMI. It is a startup which is a 3, 4 year old company. Uh, on being on boards of companies which intend to go public through an IPO. So it started by my experience with matrimony.com when they went public in 2017, and then Metropolis went public in 2018. And as you might have read about it, Nykaa will be going public in the near future. So that is another experience and another learning of partnering the company's management and executive leadership in taking the company from one stage of its life to another stage of its life. Another big source of learning is by interacting with the other board members, and And the last source of learning, I would say, is that the situation and circumstances are the best teachers, because every company goes through some special situations from time to time. And I have been fortunate, I would say, to have faced many challenges in many companies. So I have been through a hostile takeover when Mindtree was taken over by L&T. I have been through a open offer when international paper decided to exit the country, and an Indian company made an open offer to buy their shareholding and the public shareholding. I have been through a situation where the company's business was in trouble. I will not name the company, but how do you manage in that case? Last year, we went through a situation of delisting in case of Hexaware. There have been many cases where visual mechanisms have been invoked in some special circumstances in some companies. And how do you show maturity in handling visual mechanisms? Uh, and of course, how do you monitor the business from time to time, and how do you make sure that you keep creating value for your stakeholders? So the learning has been all across. It has been from people, it has been from processes which companies follow, it has been from the challenges which come from outside, it has been from regulators through the new regulations. And I would say that the part of board membership which excites me the most is this continuous learning, and the continuous need to be in a very responsible situation, because board membership is not a casual role. It's a serious statutory role, and therefore you are required to be on your toes and on guard all the time. And initially it can become daunting for a aspiring independent director, but in course of time you realize that if you follow certain things, which we'll talk about it in the later part of this chat, if you are very organized about it, I think you can actually enjoy that process. And I believe I am enjoying this stint because of this variety.
Amazing, amazing, sir. Great to know that. So, at the present moment, digital and IT are at the helm of their conversations, right? And with technology changing faster than like ever before, uh, how critical is it to upgrade yourself to the changing trends?
I would say it is not critical; it is mandatory. It is absolutely mandatory. I
True.
feel, and I would distinguish between IT and digital. I do not know whether this is the theory, but this is how I understand it. I think information technology is a basic technology available to us as human beings and also as business persons. Digital is more how it is leveraged, whether it becomes a way of life, whether it spreads to all walks of that business.
How do you see corporate governance helping the economy going forward? And because there are right now a lot of regulations that are coming in for independent directors specifically. So how do you see things going forward?
So I would break up my response in two parts. One part is about independent directors, and the other part is about the economy at large. I'll take
Right.
up the economy one first. Uh, I feel that the governance culture, as it seems to be getting more and more evangelized and adopted in the country, is good for the economy because of several reasons. First of all, governance leads to a lot of formalization. See, one of the limitations of an economy like India is that the informal sector, while it provides a lot of employment, uh, and also is a significant part of the economy, in the absence of linkage to the uh, main drivers of the economy, it is very difficult to bring good practices and discipline in that sector. So similarly, governance requires companies to formalize their decisions. So as a result of that, they become far more transparent, and they are able to people are able to understand how they are functioning. And I think a company whose operations are easily understandable gets more investors, and more investors would mean growth for those companies. So I feel governance introduces a sense of order, a sense of transparency, a sense of sharing of data, greater collaboration amongst the various people, and therefore it promotes growth because more resources are available. In my view, governance enables growth. There is a misinterpretation of governance in the country that it is a control mechanism. It's actually a liberating mechanism. So I feel greater governance, greater formalization, greater digitization is all good for the economy. Uh, Informality is not necessarily good for the economy. That is one principle I would say. Second thing is that it encourages compliance quite a lot because there is increased traceability. For independent directors, I think the scene is a little different. I feel that what our society has done to the professions of teachers and doctors, I think government is doing to the profession of independent directors. You always have high expectations from doctors that they must serve the society and they must work 24 hours a day, and they, if required, they should take personal risk. But we will not pay them well. Okay, we
Mhm.
will give them some hellish working hours. We will not give them any facilities. Similarly, on teachers, you will find that the government has huge expectations from teachers, starting with using them as census volunteers, to making them distribute family planning literature, to getting them to list out people who have not had a vaccine. The government uses teachers like they are free labor for the for the government. So just as the government does that for teachers and
Teacher.
doctors, you are trying to say that independent directors should uphold everything, all values, all laws. They should look at everything. They should govern everything well. We have to look at two things. One is, do they have all the resources to do all this? By definition, an independent director is non-executive, right? So he or she doesn't run the company. You effectively visit the company periodically during the year. If you start going there every day, you will become an executive director and you will cease to be an independent director. So you are non-executive, you are a periodic visitor. You have no authority over the management directly, excepting through the board mechanism. So you do not have the resources in most cases. Some companies are progressive and they voluntarily give a certain authority to independent directors. Parallelly, what is the reward to risk ratio for independent directors? I think the risks are many, rewards are few.
Right.
So I feel that unless there is realization of this fact of less than adequate resources and less than adequate reward to risk ratio, my personal view is that people will not be wanting to become an independent director. And this would mean that people who have other options, they will not become independent directors. And the sector will then start attracting less than the best talent.
Okay.
This is exactly what has happened to the field of medicine and to the field
Mhm.
of teaching as a profession. I think the government is alive of this situation. There are some welcome changes. There is a clarity now that the independent directors will not be held liable uh, for for things which are beyond their responsibility. And
True.
there is a, I mean, the onus of proving that an independent director is responsible is not necessarily on the independent director himself or herself. That is one. Second thing is that there is a proposal now to give independent directors ESOP in certain cases, or there is a protection of a minimum remuneration even in case
Minimum
of a loss.
remuneration as well. Yes.
I think there are some progressive steps which have come along. So I'm glad that this is happening, and I hope that this institution is strengthened and made attractive for good talent to join the sector.
Independent directors, aspiring independent directors, what would
Aspiring
your,
directors.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sir.
Okay.
What would your advice be to them?
If you have to get into a board role, you have to be dead serious about it. So, first thing I would say is that be aware that this role carries risk. It makes you do hard work, and only after being aware get into that role. So, be very conscious of what role you are getting in. Having said that, I would say that this role is perfectly doable if you are personally organized, very well organized as an individual, if you are diligent about the processes that you will follow, you have a belief in processes, and you are somewhere a business person at heart. The board of directors actually is business leadership of the company. So if I may be an audit committee chairman, but fundamentally I am a business leader in the role of a board member who is given the additional task of being the audit committee chair. I cannot say that I will do only audit committee work and then I am a director. I am at all times a director is a business leader. So I would say if you are not interested in the business of the company, you don't understand the business of the company, then it will be very difficult for you to be an effective director. And to borrow a Gujarati phrase, uh, without Vaniya Buddhi, you cannot get into the business of directorship. If you are an academician, then you will bring an academic perspective, but at all times you have to understand the business because your academic prowess is going to be used for increasing the value of the business. So you have to understand the translation. That's why I see many theoretically sound people who are completely academic. They may not make good independent directors. Okay, so I feel be serious about the role, plan for it, be diligent, be organized, develop your own processes, and I would say have an equilibrium at a superior level. So if somebody says that be on my board, कुछ काम नहीं है, just be on my board, we'll pay you some token fees, and you will get the label of being a director. Don't accept that because it's an equilibrium at a very very inferior small level. It's better to go to a board which demands a lot of things from you and you demand the right remuneration from the board. That is a much better equilibrium to have at a superior level rather than paying lip service to the board role. And I also feel that IDs have to be careful when they deal with friends and get onto the boards which are boards of companies which are run by friends, because fundamentally there is a conflict of interest. And while you feel good that okay, I am being on the board of this company, this is my friend's company, I think you will land into a trouble when there is a moment of truth. It's best to go to a board where you don't know anybody. I mean, I have, out of the boards that I have been on, I will say 60-70% of the boards where, like, I went on to the international paper board, I knew just nobody on the board. I mean, I had heard of some of the people, but nobody knew me. I did not know anybody. So that strangership is actually extremely helpful in keeping you independent and keeping you strong.
Sir,
So
can I interrupt and ask you something? Isn't it
yes,
a little difficult to handle that situation when you're entering a board as an aspiring director and you don't know anyone out there?
no, what I meant by no is have a have a close personal relationship, etc. So, for
Right,
example, people who see what I said, uh, if you interpret it technically, it is wrong and stupid on my part to say it because if they don't know you, how did they find you? Okay,
right.
so,
Yeah,
so somebody would know you and you would know somebody. What I
right,
meant by knowing was that if you know somebody really well, you have some relationship, it becomes very difficult to play that role. I also
right.
recognize that for a junior person, it will be very difficult to get into a board where nobody has heard of you. Okay,
Exactly. Right.
my
So
point
for
is
aspiring
my
directors,
point
that
is
is
don't
yeah,
leverage the relationship to get the board membership. Let me put it
right,
the other way around. Don't
right.
leverage a relationship to get a board membership because you may find it comfortable, but it will drag you into trouble. And avoid the conflict of interest as much as possible.
And I would like to highlight few points from this session we had. Firstly, you mentioned that governance is not about ticking the box, but it is about following a transparent, maintaining transparency. And also, you mentioned that uh, today the business is moving towards a more challenging role, and the role of independent directors is also evolving, which
Yes.
is also where which more independent directors will have to be aware of when they're coming on board to the board. And also you mentioned that being a board member is a continuous learning, and so for whoever is, for any aspirant who's looking at entering a board, for sure they will have to continue learning and not stop at any point of time
Yes.
when
Yes.
when they enter the board. And I think these are some points which I would take out from this session, which was I will which I feel is very important
I would
for
just highlight
you.
highlight one more point, Cecilia. One that
Yes,
is of personal organization.
yes, personal, yeah, yeah,
It is also required for a defensive purpose.
right.
Uh, See,
This,
the typical regulatory actions on boards, they take place 1 year, 2 years down the line.
Right.
If you are casual about maintaining your own records, casual about
mm-hmm,
keeping copies of documents,
mm-hmm,
you will get massacred because you will have nothing with you to
sure,
prove your innocence or to prove your positive role. So you have to be personally organized. Your data has to be personally organized. You have to calendarize all the events relating to the company. You have to follow your own calendar. You cannot be casual about being on the board. Essentially, you need to be very well organized. And I think it has a lot of rub-off benefits for your other activity. You may be running some business. You may be running some. You may be employed somewhere. All those learnings can go back to your parent profession.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Thank you for highlighting this, and I would also want to
Thank
just
you,
say that
sir, for this
this,
wonderful
yeah,
session with us. Thank
My pleasure. My pleasure.